Looky there, we're live? We're hot, baby. You see it too? Shell? That's awesome. We're hot. Fantastic. Welcome in, everybody. We've got the whole setup right here. This is a pretty clean setup. Really, really fun. So I think as folks are coming in, like first and foremost, you've seen all the X Factor stuff. You've seen our stuff. What we want to do always is provide more and more for you. And we want to help you with your game. So listen, like we asked a question yesterday, like, hey, ask any question that you want. We got 3 responses, which is awesome. But we're going to do this a heck of a lot more. This is what I need from you. Interact with us. If you go to the YouTube, you'll see tons of comments, questions in there. What you'll always notice, there's always responses to them. The reason we make these videos and this content for you is so that we can help you with your game and you enjoy this game at a higher level. So please interact with us. Like any question you have, write it in. You can DM us anytime you want. You can comment on any post, ask questions, and we will respond to those questions. So with no further ado, let's hop right into them. Shelby, you've got some questions for us. Let's just rip off that first one. Would love to answer it.
Yeah, so yesterday, a gentleman sent in, how can an old guy generate more club ball head speed?
That's great. So the question was, how can an older gentleman create more club head speed? So this is a great question. We get this question pretty often. Like speed is one of those things that everybody's looking for more. And before, let's just define 2 different like lenses here. There's a difference between speed and distance. You can have 100-mile-an-hour club speed and only hit the golf ball 200 yards. That would be a thing. So we want efficiency first. So the number one thing that we want to take a look at, especially with driver, if you can, in your home setup, or if you can't do this at your home setup, just go to PGA Tour Superstore. You can take your driver in there and just get proper numbers like how's the golf ball launching, how's it spinning, and what's the smash factor just in general off the face. Like with driver, perfect smash factor is 1.5, and where that number actually comes from is how fast the ball is coming off compared to how fast the club head speed is. So in the example of 100-mile-an-hour club speed, if I'm smashing it at 1.5, the ball would come off at 150 miles an hour. So that's where smash factor comes from. But then we need launch and we need proper spin. And there's an optimal for this, but somewhere roughly, this will just be for all club speeds, like from 80 miles an hour all the way to 115. Ideally, we're launching the golf ball somewhere around 13, 14, 15 degrees-ish. And then we have a spin of about 2,000, maybe 2,500, somewhere in there. And what that means is like the golf ball is going to launch, then it's going to hit, and then it's going to run out. It'll give you the optimum carry and run out. So you get like optimum distance there. That's the distance formula, not necessarily the speed formula. So speed, guys, like number one correlator with speed is the player's ability to jump. So older folks, you don't need to jump as much, but we need the opportunity for working vertically. Now, if you're going to work vertically, that means that in this transitionary period, as the golf club is finishing, working up in space, you'd be dropping to some degree. So my booty moves here. Now, you'll notice when I drop, kind of drops in this space. The reason for this is if I'm dropping in this space, 1, it's a very healthy move, but 2, the only way to jump is to lower in the first place. So now from here, if I turn and just rotate up, that's the vertical move that we see out of all these folks that hit the golf ball a little bit further and gain club speed. Now, for older folks too, you have limited mobility for the most part. So once you drop in, so right in here as I drop, now as I turn, I'm going to turn, but see how the left foot can work out of this space? So the whole thing, this would be, obviously I have 7-iron here, but you can do this with driver. You're here, drop, gone. That action where you step out of it like that will help to shoot. Like if I'm turning up into this space, because I'm stepping out of this space, I can shoot the golf club out here. It's like easy free speed. So again, drop, gone. It's an easy way to create speed. Little like cheat code, we'll call it. Hopefully that answers that question. Shelb, you got another one?
Yeah, so do you get a swing feedback with the membership with X Factor?
Yes, absolutely. One of the beautiful things with X Factor is we have an online community. And as you watch videos, or I mean, shoot, you can watch videos on YouTube, watch videos on Instagram. All the videos that we have on X Factor, we have over 300 friggin' videos, and organized in a way that's going to help you build your game. But I guarantee you're going to have questions as you watch all this content. Our online community, you can drop in your actual golf swing, ask any question that you have, and you are going to get a response from an elite certified coach. This is part of what makes this program so special, is I get to get on there, see your golf swing as you're working through it, and answer that question that you have, and you can do that at an unlimited basis. I mean, who else is frickin' doing that? It's an awesome build out, and what we're so proud of with this entire platform. Great question.
Okay, do you prefer a draw or a fade?
Do I prefer a draw or a fade? Yes. I like them both. So when you're working on this stuff, like part of what makes our system is like systems have like bookends. You can play with this space. So here's what I'd like you to do. Once you definitely like understand and can kind of feel systems and like movement, organize the club, blah, 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 and you feel like you're in there, this is a great like little cheat code for this. So let's say that I'm standing in a pool and the water line is just like barely underneath what like this would be considered an oar coming out of my right shoulder, and I'm the whole of the boat. So as I'm moving, like I could go whoop, see this like little lateral bend, and there goes the oar, it gets in the water, and now I can move this wave of energy in any direction that I want. So if you're my target, and there's the water in here, I could shoot this wave. See how I'm like shooting this wave of energy off to the right? Or I could shoot this wave of energy off to the left. Or I could shoot it at the target. So if you're hitting shots, like how easy would it be to go, okay, I'm in here in delivery in the same way, but now I'm gonna go wave of energy to the right, and this would be like a little block. Or same delivery, guys, like I'm in here, whoop, good delivery, but now I could shoot this energy or that wave off to the left, and there's a little pull cut. Now, I know I'm hitting into a screen, but you can do this when you go out, either like if you have an at-home setup, that's super sweet, or if you just go to the range. Like once you get in system, what you should do is play with the system. The definition of a good golf swing is your ability to command the ball. So if I'm standing behind you watching you hit balls, I should be able to go, hey, start one left of your alignment, start one right of your alignment, and you just flush it and own that. It's a great way to always keep a balanced system. Great question. All right, we got any more as we're rocking through these?
People are sending a lot in right now.
People are sending a lot in? That's fantastic. Well, pick out the best ones.
Okay. That's hard.
Good.
Would you say Bryson Shambo's swing mechanically has similarities with your preference? Who looks like a hitter? Any advice?
That's a great question, because like here's what I'd encourage you to do. Go to his channel and watch the stuff that he puts out. He has this like real oh, okay, yeah. So the question was, does Bryson DeChambeau have a similar pattern to our preference? Okay, so I'll get to the answer to this question, but if you go to his channel and take a look at, there's like a viral video that he just did where he goes back here, he looks away, and he goes, drop and turn, and the golf club does this, and he goes, no. And if you look at a lot of the stuff that I prefer, man, I love that stuff. Like right in here where the players drop and turn and the club goes behind, we're right in here to be able to thump it. So what he says instead is he wants to get the golf club up here, and then the arms or the hands, and he might word this in a different way, but the arms and hands are absolutely lowering, and the hands are almost going into his right hip pocket, and then from here he turns on it. Now, that's what his intention is, and he has a lot of that in his actual swing. But here's the deal. I think a lot of people see our stuff and they're like, ooh, a rotational swing. Well, yeah, there's rotation in the golf swing. There's also vertical force. There's also lateral force. You have angular force. You have all these different forces. And what I'm looking to do always is organize those forces for each individual player so they experience better golf and they hit better shots. At the end of the day, the arms do lower to some degree. They do go across the body to some degree. The lead arm will be in a like an internal state, and then will go into an external state to some degree. Every single player will do all three of those things. Elevate and lower, across the body, internal, external. Everybody does those items. Everybody performs those movements to a certain degree. What we're matching up with the arms, really, no, let's restate this. What we're first creating is a proper engine. Your pelvis, your spine, and your ribs, how they perform is going to dictate what your arms then have to do. So your arms are always matched up here. So it's this proximal awareness to organize the distal. Distal meaning like out my hands, the golf club, my arms, but it's this stuff that we want to organize first. And what I'm incredibly infatuated with is a player's ability to move in a way that's healthy. So you're moving tissue well, that affects your bones. And if you understand this stuff, you'll move in a way that after a round of golf, you actually feel better than you did when you first went in. Like, I don't want anybody saddled up on the friggin' couch after a round of golf or a practice session. Are you kidding me? You're just swinging a tool around. It's not that big of a deal. But if you move well, you're doing yourself a favor. Like, every day you go out there and you're going to enjoy practice. You'll feel nice. You move nice. Tissue elongates, blah, blah, blah. So what I would like to see from most players is their ability to drop the pelvis and rotate the chest. That's the pattern. If I drop pelvis to a certain degree and I'm rotating the chest here, all my tissue is moving in the same direction. That's clean. And then you can match up the arms along with it. So long answer to this question, but DeChambeau has some similarities to a hitter, and he also has some similarities to a swinger. Great question.
I got next for you, Riley.
Another question. Great.
Would you show a perfect takeaway? The person tends to roll inside.
Great. So the question is, can you show a perfect takeaway for a person who tends to roll inside? Absolutely. So we've got two different ways of really moving the golf club. So if I'm right here, okay, set up to the golf ball, I could swing the golf club here. Notice where the club is in space. Or I could do this. Notice where the club is in space. The club's in the same spot, but I got it there in two totally different ways. And what you've got to start to understand, guys, is like if you actively throw a movement, it's going to leak because it's dynamic into additional movements after that. So the first action is me taking this lead arm and moving it right across my body. This is adduction of the lead arm. If I do that hard enough, it's eventually, especially if I hold on to something that has mass to it, like a golf club, if I go hard enough, notice what the shape of the golf club looks like here, and look at the shape of my arm. Because of this adduction of the lead arm, it moved into an internal state after I threw it across my body. So there goes the golf club behind me. So I rolled it inside. It's because that is a distal to proximal act, and the golf swing is a proximal to distal act. So instead, what if you just moved your rib cage in a way that looked like this? And what if you tried to keep this hand right out in front of you? So notice how the ribs are moving, but nothing's really happening in here yet. I'm just turning, and eventually if I kept pressuring the turn, I'd look like this. What if I had both hands out in front of me while I did this? See how the right arm is still absolutely on top of the left? Compared to me racing this across, now the left arm has climbed and it's worked on top of the right. Well, look at the two different looks. Whoop, here or here. Now it's tall. See how the golf club's right up on top of the plane? It's because the ribs have moved first and the arms get towed along. So you just set up to shots going proximal, and then the arms eventually turn or get moved because the ribs. Let the golf club continue to work up here and hit it. Very good question.
Good evening from Germany.
Good evening from Germany.
One question, what kind of grip do you prefer?
What kind of grip do I prefer? That's a great question. So let's go about it from this standpoint. Morikawa, when he grips it, the V right here that's created, or the line that's created from the thumb and the pointer finger, points right up his midline. Okay, points right here. Whereas Fitzpatrick will grip it, and the emblem of the glove points out towards, in this case, the camera. Which one's right? It's a matchup. Now, if we look at Rory, stronger lead hand, so looks like Fitzpatrick. At the top of his swing, he'll have more cup in this lead hand because of that. Because the golf club, the club face is already strong, meaning it's like closed based on how he's gripping it here. Whereas Morikawa, it's here. This is a weaker grip, so the face is going to look much different. It's a weaker face. So if I did the same action, see how open the club face is? Like that looks like Rory at the top. Well, Morikawa at the top, you'll see more of this bow look, and that's what controls the face. So it depends on what you need and what you'll, hate this word, but naturally do with your wrist. It's not necessarily naturally what you naturally do with your wrist. It's more based on what you tend to do with your arm lines that affect the wrist. And so if you tend to bow it at the top, you should probably leak more into a weaker grip at the address position with the lead hand. If you tend to just radial the golf club, so meaning that you just hinge it straight up, say I have more cup there at the top, then you would want more of a stronger grip so you can manage the face better there. That's with the lead hand. With the trail hand, I would prefer players feel like we have two bones right here. There's a knob right here and there's a knob over here. This is the head of the radius. It's the head of the ulnar. Notice how the radius is a little bit closer to the target when I'm set up here compared to here. If I'm more supinated, it's a stronger grip. It's easier for me to lose the face as I work through the shot. So as I'm turning and these arm lines unload, see, I'll lose the face easier that way compared to a hand that's up over the top. Like this is a more stable hit. So the face, like even if I release it, I won't lose the face as much, meaning it's not going to tumble over as hard. So great question. That would be like the matchup of grip to good movement. Yes?
So we've got any advice on keeping better arm structure coming into P6?
Great. So any advice on how to keep better arm structure coming into P6? So number one, let's just understand the P system. So P stands for position. Position 1 or P1 is setup. Position 4 is all the way to the top. All these other positions are various levels to the ground. P2, shaft level, P3, lead arm level, P4, the top. Now we're going P5, lead arm level, P6, right in here. Okay, so now the shaft's back level. So this is P6. This is the question originally is like, what's the arm structure coming into P6? Okay, let's look at it from this perspective. The arm level is affected based on what the spirals are doing, in particular what the pelvis and the ribs are doing. If I swivel the pelvis, meaning my pelvis looks like this is another way to elongate spiral tissue. So see the distance from my lead armpit to the trail armpit? All this tissue elongates. Or I can take the upper ribs and start to pull this tissue from my armpit actively away from this hip. Watch what happens to the elbow height. Right now, neutral, so the level of the elbows is neutral as well. So if I go swivel and upper spiral, now look at the arms. Humerus bone is higher than this humerus bone. See the elevation difference. So what we would look like, and I'm gonna go pelvic swivel and upper spiral rib movement. Whoop, I look like this. See what the shaft did? Look at what the arms look like. So if I turned over here and then felt the same thing, where I go pelvic drop, pelvic swivel, and there go the ribs. Now I'm in here like really close to P6. Look at the space in between here. This is the preferred map. See how the golf club's slotted? If I just kept turning, now I'm in here. And that's how you'd hit. So you can do these nice little simple exercises where you're here, drop, pelvic swivel, and upper spiral tissue. Whoop, look at where the club is. If I kept turning, I could just chip some right in there. And the better you get acquainted with that, you go, whoa, boom. See how that hit look? We're here, there. It's a great question. Hopefully that makes sense, but it's mostly done because of the upper spiral and the lower spiral, in particular the pelvis and the ribs. Great question.
What would you say is the dominant feel with your rib cage through that?
Yeah. The question was, what would you say is the dominant feel in your rib cage through that whole system? So this is dope. Here's your friggin' anatomy lesson for the day. You have 3 types of ribs. You have upper ribs, lower ribs, and floating ribs. So let's get rid of the floating ribs for just the sake of argument. The lower ribs are primarily just in charge of just general rotation here. The upper ribs look like an accordion. So if these ribs right in the armpit, if one side, those ribs clunk together, these sides separate and elongate. See this? Like it looks like an accordion. One elongates and expands, the other shrink. So I'll look like this. Womp, womp. This is a much different, like see how, this is a super cool lens too, because this is why we talk about like the T-spine and C-spine working into most of the bend rather than L-spine. If I just do this, see this lateral bend? You'll see it better from here. This is the pivot point. Look, I just like clunk to both sides. This sucks. This is why people have lower back pain. But if I'm feeling it in the armpits because the upper ribs are either clunking together or expanding, look at the difference in the shape. Now the pivot is in here. It's in the middle of my T-spine, one way or the other. So you'll feel this tissue all elongate. These ribs are expanded, these ribs clunk together, but it's right in the pits. Then if I drop, swivel, I can get out of there and I'll feel the opposite. So that's why we love exercises like this. This is like boat drill. See how I'm going, whoa. All of this tissue is elongating. It's up here in your chest, up in through your armpits. You'll feel the, like almost the uppermost spiral tissue propelling that action, and that's where you'll feel it in the ribs. But it's not like most people think of the ribs as here. I'm talking about the ribs up in here, like up in the pits. That's where we want to focus. Great question.
Okay, one more kind of goes with that.
Mm-hmm.
Is do you initially rotate your trail hip to P3?
Do you initially rotate your trail hip to get to P3 is the question. Okay, so when we're talking hip rotation, in our map, the bone that is active in the movement is the pelvis, not the femurs. So let's just cover this really quick. External hip rotation, internal hip rotation. Now, I see how that's active in the actual leg. I can create internal rotation of the trail hip because I'm rotating the pelvis in the space. Notice how when I rotate this big bone in here, my patella generally stays pointing forward, my kneecap generally stays pointing forward, but I'm rotating the pelvis in this space, and that creates internal rotation of this hip. Now, the pelvis in the backswing should be pulled on by the upper spiral line, by the ribs. So if I'm moving in here, see how it's just the ribs that are being pulled, like this spiral tissue is elongating? And if I kept turning, it would now start to turn the pelvis, and the pelvis would rotate into this space. So why this creates depth is 2 reasons. One, the spiral tissue pulls in this direction, up, back, and away. And so as I keep moving, eventually see how this hip gets pulled in this direction? But also, if I keep turning and pressuring this upper spiral and I drop the pelvis, look at how deep this right hip gets. It's way back here. If I start to swivel the pelvis, now look how deep my booty is. But the key piece there, the upper spiral tissue is pulling all this in this direction until the pelvis starts to drop, and that's like the final piece to depth of the pelvis. So that's kind of how like the hips are always moving in our lens, is the pelvis is rotating into either femur, and that's what creates that internal state when it comes to this trail hip complex in the backswing. Good question. Cool. Yeah, so what's coming up next with X Factor? Well, X Factor's here. All 4 of them friggin' rock stars rocking right now and helping us with this. What's coming up next? Guys, we want to help every single player play better golf. And when you're looking at our information online, what you will tend to see is we'll showcase some of our professionals that we're fortunate enough to work with. We work with 9 of them right now. We also have had over 150 students in our junior academy earn college scholarships to go play golf at the collegiate level, which we're super proud of those juniors and those college players. But look, what we will do is we will help 66 million people play this game at a higher level. That is the world's population who plays golf. The majority of folks who play golf struggle with this game. So we just built out an entire platform that will help players who struggle to break 100 shoot 90 for the first time, which I'm thrilled to do. So we just built out a Own the 90s series that is absolutely freaking fantastic that we're so excited to rock and roll with. So, and I think we're changing cameras here. Can we actually go right here with my man Winnie? What up, Win? So walking in here, I want to really show what some of these new developments really are going to be and what they're going to look like. So say hi to Pace too. Pace Freed owns X Factor Golf. And I think what we're doing, we're getting the tablet out to kind of show some of this stuff.
Let's go master the 90s.
Yep.
And let's just talk about this concept that we're just about to introduce to X Factor Golf.
Beautiful. So we're talking about owning the 90s or mastering the 90s. What do we call it? Master the 90s? Is that what we decided on? I like both.
Yeah.
You guys let us know. Like, what do you like more? So, look, at the end of the day, like if you're shooting 120, okay? If I gave you a recipe on how to shoot 90 at maximum, you would be friggin' infatuated with that and in love with that. So the idea here is we're going to help players with 3 different areas: entering scoring zone, and putting green, and what the expectation in each one of these phases really is, and how to do the math. On the putting green, obviously we want 2 putts at the max. There's such a thing as scoring zone. Like as you get closer to the putting green, we want 1 shot to get it on the green. And then based on the par of every hole, you either get 1, 2, or 3 shots to get it on it, like inside the scoring zone area. If we're playing par 3s, 1 shot to get inside scoring zone, 1 shot to get it on the green, 2 putts, that equals 4. So your personal par is 4. Then we've got par 4s, we got par 5s. And you can do the math there. This is a very simple way of better understanding this. But at the same time, then, we are going to help players with the techniques that are needed and necessary for every one of these phases of every hole to be able to help just like nail these phases so that you actually get to this level. Like, how cool would that be? I shoot 120 and in 4 months I get to 90. Like, what the heck? Who does that? That's really freaking cool to be able to get to that level. So we just built this out, which I think we're like crazy pumped to do. But look, like, even though I'm saying like these higher handicappers, we want to help them, of course we want to help them. If you're a friggin' tour pro or a super high level junior, we're going to help you with those recipes that are going to help you play better golf in that area as well. And so this math equation modifies slightly based on the levels that you're at. So if you get to 90, well, guess what we need to do? How do we nail the 80s? Once you get in the 80s, how do you get it between 80 and 75? Once you're doing that, 75 and below, all the way to the point where you can shoot numbers that start with a 6 and then low 60s. We want to build out every single tier for every single player that plays this awesome game.
Awesome. One thing too, Riley, I was thinking, you talked about the club selection and the kind of those first few clubs to use off the tee boxes. Let's go into that just a little bit as well. Yeah,
beautiful. So if you're higher handicapper, you are allocated 14 clubs to play with. If you're shooting 120, man, you don't need 14 clubs. You're not at the skill level yet that you need to be able to like actually nail that. So look, from a higher handicap perspective, you're going to start with 5 clubs. We got a driver, you got a hybrid, so like maybe a 5 or 6 hybrid, either one is totally fine. Even if you wanted like a 4 hybrid, that's cool too. 7-iron, pitching wedge, which by the way has 45 frickin' degrees of loft on it. That has plenty of loft to hit shots in sand, pitch, chip, whatever, doesn't matter. Pitching wedge is plenty of loft, and then you probably guessed that the last one is putter. This is where you get to start until you prove to me that you have developed the skills that it takes to shoot 90, 95, 96 on a regular basis. Once you're in there, now we can add some more clubs in to take it to the next level and actually break into the 80s, which we're building out those series as well, which is super fun.
Awesome. Well, I think the last thing we could add right here before we end this live would be how this Q&A kind of worked and some concepts that we're going to be adding to X Factor Golf right away. So a few things like that, obviously some podcasts, and just allowing basically how we're going to cover every level and kind of get into the weeds and stuff like that if we need to.
So look, to get in your grill, again, we're infatuated with one thing. You playing better golf and enjoying that process. It's again, maybe the greatest skill game that's ever been developed. And because of that, it's a difficult game sometimes to better understand how to shoot these lower scores and better your game. And by the way, it doesn't mean that you have to go out and shoot lower scores. Everybody plays this game for various reasons. If it's lowering your handicap, that's super dope. If you want to understand how to swing it and you're a golf nerd like I am, and just crazy geek who's like infatuated with understanding movement, like you're right there with me, man. I freaking am a geek too. Welcome to Nerdville at Elite Golf Schools and X Factor. What we want to do and what we are going to do is we'll stop at nothing to help you. And whether that's through this subscription-based platform that we're talking about today, or whether that's you writing in on social media, or coming to see us in person, like whatever it is that's feasible for you, we'll stop at nothing to help you. You just need to reach out. I don't know who you are unless you reach out to me. So reach out to myself, reach out to Elite Golf Schools and X Factor. We will help you with your game. And listen, we're friggin' so honored to do so, and I can't wait to meet you. So thanks for tuning into this live. Let's keep taking it to the next level because we're going to here, baby. Let's go.